If you want to write a book and become a best-selling author, you're in the right place. At Elite Online Publishing, we can help you create, publish, and market your book so that it becomes a #1 bestseller. We work with a limited number of authors to ensure that they receive the best possible service. So if you want to learn how to write and publish a book that will empower you to smartly grow your brand, business, and credibility, apply today. We look forward to working with you.
Hey everyone, thanks for coming today to the Elite Publishing Podcast. All right, I'm super excited. We have one of our very first authors that we ever published, Joshua M. Evans, the author of Enthusiastic You, and of course he was a #1 bestseller. His story is so transformative of why he decided to write the book, and I'm going to give you a hint. When he decided to write his book, he actually quit his job to start this new career. So you just can't wait to hear the story, the whole transformation, all the doors that opened, all his tips and tricks that he went through. So Josh, you've just been blowing it up and going crazy over the years with your book, Enthusiastic You. Welcome. Thanks for joining us today.
Absolutely. It's a total pleasure to be here, and anything for you guys, because this book was the catalyst that really launched my career in the direction I was trying to take it. And so honored to be here.
Awesome. Well, Josh, tell us a little bit about yourself and about why you decided to write a book.
Well, I'm 6'2". No, I'm just kidding. I'm not going to go that deep. No, I wrote the book. It was funny. I accidentally wrote the book, and that it's rare for people to say they accidentally wrote a book. I got into a disagreement with somebody that I worked with, and he was very despondent in his role. And I couldn't believe that somebody could just be so complacent. And so that night I was sitting at home, and every author has their method for, getting the muse to come to them. But I was drinking scotch by myself with my dog. And it hit me, people should be enthusiastic about their work. And so I started venting like in dictation mode to my iPad. And it slowly grew over the course of a few months, and it grew into, tens of thousands of words. So I was like, hold on a second, I can't just sit on this. I have to do something about it. And as luck would have it, I was introduced to Elite Publishing. And when we started to really explore this opportunity, you said, you want to publish my book? I realized that this is my opportunity. I had always loved having a microphone in my hands and imparting wisdom and sharing my knowledge with other people. But this was now going to be the first moment that helped me launch into a public speaking career, which is what I do now full-time professionally. And so as we moved through the process of working, the book became a huge piece of credibility for me moving forward. Having it, our marketing campaign turned into a #1 bestseller was huge. And there was so many interesting benefits that came out of that. Not only is it great for my clients that want to see that I've done something of value and to prove my worth to them, but also with other organizations, including lots of news organizations, when I can tell them, hey, I'm a #1 bestseller, you should listen to what I say, they're a lot more likely to bring me in and to actually take my advice. And so because of the book, I've been able to be quoted by organizations like the Wall Street Journal, the Harvard Business Review, Inc. magazine, the Huffington Post, and dozens of others. And it all happened because I had this credibility of a #1 bestseller in my pocket.
So walk us through that first speaking gig you got because of your book. How did you do it? What happened? How did the door open for you?
Well, we had gone through the marketing campaign. We did a great book launch. It did become a bestseller. We even did a book signing at a local bookstore, which was phenomenal. We handed out wine, which was really just a way to get people in the door to buy the book.
Wait, and didn't you have labels? You had labels made for your wine.
Yes, we're going to give a little behind the scenes action here. So I went to Trader Joe's and I bought a couple of cases of $3 Chuck. And I had labels of my book cover printed up, and I just plastered them over the front of them. And so look, Josh has wine that goes with this book. Amazing. And I'm not going to say it improved sales, but it improved everybody's attitude while they were buying the book. Yeah. And so it was a great event. It was a lot of fun. And then following some of your advice, when I would identify an event planner that wanted to hire a speaker, I would send them a copy of my book with a handwritten note. I'd even sign the inside of the book. I would love to work with you sometime. And I'm thinking back, and if I have my facts correct, and I do because I actually remember it pretty specifically, I sent my book to an event planner for a Bureau and Travel Association based here in Texas. And I sent it to her. She goes, wow, we have not received a book like this before, and we really liked it. Would you bring this to our event? Now, my first event that I ever got paid because of this book, I did not get paid that much, but because it was a travel association, they flew me out on their dime. They had a car service, picked me up in a limousine. They rolled out the red carpet. I was like, this is exactly what I'm talking about. This is amazing. Now I just need to add zeros to the check that they gave me. And so that's sort of a moment where you you do all of this work and all of the background, because writing the book is not easy. We can get into that. Writing isn't easy and the marketing isn't easy. But once you start seeing the fruits of your labor, it's just such a catalyzing thing where all of a sudden you realize, okay, this is really happening. Steps are being taken forward. And it, as I said, it was a catalyst that really launched me into this career.
I love that. And when you decided to become an author and you wrote the book and you had all this status, like what came next? So was it just, let's get more speaking gigs, or was it like, okay, now I'm going to, send my book to a lot more people? Like, what did you do next after that first speaking gig?
Well, and to be honest, the book became more of a promotional tool. So I started sending it out to people that could hire me. I would send it to chief human resource officers at organizations that I wanted to work with and things like that. And then off of that, once you start getting events, and once I started getting events booked, a lot of them would ask, hey, what can we do if we wanted to buy a large block of your books? And so, you get these deals where like, hey, we want to pay you to speak, but we'd also like to buy 200 of your books. And great news, I'm happy to give them a discount because I get them at an even lower discount. And then I can have them shipped directly to the event. So I don't even have to touch them until I have the audience meeting me afterwards because they want a book signed by the keynote speaker. And so it's really been a phenomenal opportunity just to spread my message further than it would have gone just through my speeches or just through marketing the book.
Right. So do you actually put into the contract when you speak, like it includes this amount of books, like since you had that happen to you, or how do you get that all worked in?
I always offer it. I always, hey, does your audience want books? Would this be something? And some organizations are like, yes, that sounds great. And some are like, no, not really. And then there's other organizations like, actually, we would like to buy some and put them in our gift bags for all of our attendees. And then the conversation, okay, how many attendees are you going to have? And it's just neat to be able to provide a deeper level of engagement with these organizations and with their members than just the speech. And because I can speak for an hour and people can get excited for that moment, but unless there's something following it, right? Unless there's more information behind it, that motivation, that wears off. And so having something that I can use that will reinforce the materials that I shared with them through the keynote has been really helpful as far as reminding them that I'm available for other organizational events, but also reminding them of those insights that I provided during my speech.
And you know what I really like about this is a lot of authors, I don't want to say they get lazy, but it's like, oh, you mean I have to mail my book out myself? And I'm like, yeah. You need to make a list of people. Like, I love that you sent it to an event planner. Like, we'll even say, make a list of the top.
I've sent it to dozens of event planners, if I'm going to be honest, dozens.
And has it been effective? Have the event planner sending been effective?
So I'm going to backpedal for a moment. Didn't know how much work publishing a book was. All right. So let's just go ahead and get that out there. It's a lot of work, right? It's time intensive. There's conversations, there's conflict. It's great. But the real work doesn't begin until after the book is available. And if I'm being honest about it, is while I love the book, what the book really provided me wasn't money just from selling the book. It's the credibility that it lent me. And from that, and maybe this is a problem other authors face, is I've reread my book since then. And I see a lot of stuff that I missed. I see stuff that I got wrong. And when you're writing the book, when you're in the process of actually writing it, you get through and you think that it's the greatest piece of literature ever written, or maybe you don't, but I did. And if I'm being perfectly honest, my first book was not the greatest piece of literature ever written. It wasn't. It was good. It had some wonderful concepts. It had some unique aspects. It had some fun stories, but you reread it and you see how you miss so much. And so as somebody who had never published a book before, all of a sudden I start saving ideas for the next book. And the next book. And I'm going to be honest, I've probably written 2 more books, scrapped them both. And now I'm on a 3rd because now I think I really know what the world wants. And I think it's this ever evolving thing. It's not a set it and forget it. Because I mean, anybody probably thinks this too. I thought, I'm going to have this bestseller and it's going to be like the Field of Dreams, where if I build it, they will come. And that was not the case at all. I have to market myself way more than I ever thought I would. But it's so much easier having a #1 bestseller as part of my tagline, because not everybody has that. It's a very unique thing. And so being able to do that is really giving me the clout in these conversations to demand a higher fee. And that's something that I think everybody needs to realize. There's a lot of work after the book is written, right? Because it is a lot of work, but after the book is written, that's where the real fun happens, right? Where you actually have to use the book and you actually have to leverage your position as a knowledge expert, right? As a subject matter expert, as a leader in your field, you have to really leverage the book to get it in front of other people. Because it's not, you don't just become a bestseller and all of a sudden everybody wants to have you speak. That's just not the way it works.
And, we have authors that come to us, well, is it really important to be a bestseller? I don't want you to make me a bestseller. Why do I really need that? And you really were key in, yeah, it makes a difference. I mean, do you think that?
Having a book is great, but anybody can have a book. Mm-hmm. Having a bestseller is something substantial, right? Yeah. So I don't know. I'm trying to think of a good analogy for what this, like anybody can play intramural sports at their local university, but being on the university team means a lot more. It's a lot more credible. And that's exactly how I view a bestseller versus any other book. And so I'm super proud of the work that we did. We were a #1 bestseller in multiple categories on Amazon. And I truly think that because it was a #1 bestseller, it's opened up way more opportunities for me in the long term.
Yeah. Out of those opportunities, what do you think would be the most surprising to you? Like what happened because of your book that was that most surprised you?
I'll say the most surprising thing is I got a note from somebody in Germany that had read my book and really loved it. Now, they wanted to bring me in to speak for their organization. They couldn't afford me, so the opportunity could get further than that. However, knowing that somebody halfway around the world, and we didn't market it internationally, but somebody halfway around the world came in touch with my message and was compelled enough to reach out to me because they liked it. It was a very awe-inspiring moment where like you realize, oh, wow, okay, this goes far beyond the people that I've handed the book to or that I've mailed the book to. There's actually people out there that have passed my book out to friends of theirs. And as I said, that was a weird moment where like someone internationally reaches out because they've read my book. And it was a really humbling and cool moment.
How do you think going through the process, like you're hoping it's going to change other people's lives, right? That it's going to inspire, motivate them and make their life better and enrich them. How do you think going through the process changed you personally and maybe changed even your relationships with family and friends?
Going through the process of writing the book, publishing the book, or working after?
Kind of all, because when you go through the process, you have to have patience. Like you said, it wasn't easy. And then marketing it is hard. You may have learned patience. You may have learned other skills along the way personally. So what skills did you learn by going through the whole process, writing, publishing, marketing, that's changed you personally and your relationship?
Let's start with patience, because patience is a virtue that I do not possess a lot of. I want everything. I want it now. Give it to me all. I am often given a lot of opportunities to practice patience because I don't have it. And writing the book is one of those things, because you write it and then you have to edit it and then you have to reread it. And then we have to go through all the layout conversations and the cover. And it's a million little decisions that you didn't realize you're going to have to make. And none of them happen fast because you have to get input. You have to get feedback. You need these pieces of information coming from others so that you can correct it, refix it, then send it back out, make sure that's landing well, and then actually solidify it in the book. And so patience is something that I'm still working on, I'm still learning. But that was something that definitely came into play while creating the book. It's all the same thing afterwards, right? Even in the marketing and in working to build my business as a keynote speaker, patience is a huge thing. But as a mentor of mine used to say, that stick-to-itiveness is your greatest competitive advantage. If you can stick with it, if you can follow the process, that whatever process that you create and actually provide value, then you'll eventually, reach a level of success that you want. And it's been an interesting psychological experience for me, if only because you set out this goal. I would like to have a best-selling book, and you write the book and you go through the marketing and you question yourself and you're like, is it going to be a bestseller? I don't know. Is it really that good? Are people going to like it? And then when it finally comes to fruition, you have this moment where you're like, oh, wow, okay, I did it. And then the problem is now that's a goal you've already reached. What's the next goal that you have to produce? And so one of the things that I learned from this is you reach a milestone and you're okay, wait, what's the next step? Like, I don't know the next step. And so one of the things that I think the process of writing a book and then the marketing the book taught me is you have to be looking several steps down the road. Not that I love to play chess and I like to look further steps down the road, but you need to be building towards the end goal, right? That final bastion idea of what you're trying to accomplish. And there's thousands of steps between there, but you have to be looking far enough out to where the things you're doing right now are contributing to what you're trying to accomplish later. And so that was one of the other very interesting things that I found. And psychologically, I think it's changed the way in which I view tasks that I have to complete, if that makes sense, and how I use my time. I mean, my time has become infinitely more valuable than when I first launched the book. And so the way in which I use my time and how I delegate activities that I don't want to be doing has really become an invaluable part of my business, just because now I have to be more protective of how I utilize all those resources.
Mm-hmm. I love how you said that end goal. Do you feel like when you were writing the book, you had that, what they call the why? It's like, why? What's the purpose of this book? What's the purpose of what is it going to get me? And then what? Do you feel like you had that when you were writing it? Or do you think
I knew why I was doing it? I knew
Yeah.
why I was doing it. And to be honest, the reason I was doing it is because so my heart sings the most when I'm on a stage talking to an audience and truly connecting, like emotionally connecting with the people in that audience and helping improve their lives. That's when I am at my best, psychologically, emotionally, physically. Like that is when I'm in my zone. And I knew that's how I can bring value to the rest of the world. And so to beat around the bush, because I forgot the actual initial question, I truly think that starting with a why is a phenomenal thing, but a why is not enough to get you started, right? It doesn't evoke action, right? Then from a why, you have to back out to, okay, how? And then you ask the question, when? Well, now is always the best time to start anything. And so that's really the way I kind of look at it.
Yeah, I like having the big goal, and sometimes it happens. If you didn't plan for it in the beginning, it happens through the process. And some things you can't even plan, like doors open, opportunities happen that you didn't plan for with the book, like someone wanting you to speak in Germany. Like you might not have been thinking you were going to be an international speaker or have that opportunity to do that. Another point, I kind of want to jump back. You had talked about, gosh, after I read my book that I should have said this, I should have said that. One of the great things about a book is that you can always go back and update it. You can make changes and reload the interior again. So you don't have to be a whole new book. You're like, oh man, I should have added this paragraph. I should have added that. So you can tweak it. We've got a book right now that they're rewriting almost the whole thing. And then we're re-uploading it with the same cover and everything. It's a fiction book, but it's like they're tweaking everything to make it more for a movie. So that's the cool thing that you can do when you have a book, when you're there. And I like that you're making those points that you're going to, have that goal. Is there anything that was unexpected that happened to you that you're like, oh my gosh, this person called me? Like you said, you got that call from Germany, but did you get any other opportunity that was unexpected, like a career opportunity that you thought, oh, I didn't think my career was actually going this way? Because maybe you're doing consulting. I know you're doing a little consulting now, but your idea was maybe I'm just going to speak. So did anything like that happen?
Well, and this happened pretty early on, is I go ahead and I was destined to be a keynote speaker, and I was starting to get more and more events, but then I would have organizations, we want more, right? So maybe they had me speak once, or they would have a few copies of the book and they go, we need more in-depth work with our organization, with our teams. And so it started turning to, okay, how deep do you want to go? And when organizations are talking about doing multi-week engagements, I mean, the price goes up pretty substantially, which is nice. And you actually get to see the change in these organizations. So I began consulting pretty early on. Probably about a year after the book first came out is when I really started to ramp up some of my consulting. Now, year to year, that varies on how much consulting, because it's very time consuming, but that was an area that I hadn't originally seen that the book really did open up an opportunity for.
Yeah. Is there anything you would tell an author who hasn't written their book yet? Just some advice that you'd give them?
So I read a book by Stephen Pressfield, and I don't know if you've ever read the book, The War of Art. Sorry, The Art of War is Sun Tzu. The Art of War, or the War. It's like, I just did it twice. The War of Art. That's his book. It's on the shelf. I promise I remember the title. But the interesting about that book is he talks about waiting for the muse to arrive, and you have to respect the muse. And he substantially believes that the muse is a real thing that comes and gives them information and ideas for his books. But what we should be doing is respecting the time, because I think too often we're like, well, when an idea hits me, I'll sit down and I'll write a little bit about it. And the problem is sometimes when the idea hits us, we're not in the right place, right? Like we're traveling, or we're about to walk into a meeting, or we have, family obligations. And so we forget and we put it off to the next time. I'll remember that later, and you don't. And so what I recommend is anytime you get just a tiny little idea, a little speckle of what could be a chapter, it could be an idea or insight in the book, write it down in your notes on your phone. Like you have it with you, just write it down real quick, do a voice message to yourself, whatever you need to do. but then choose a time during each day where you sit down and decide to focus on writing. And that would be my preparation for the muse. And so I've shifted that recently because I'm working on another book, but I sit down and I force myself to write 1,000 words. And like, it sounds daunting and it sounds crazy, but if you look back through, notes you've taken, ideas that you've scribbled on napkins. I mean, I've got 3 notebooks in front of me with just scribbles of ideas. And so once you start weeding through those, you'll see maybe not a story, right? But an outline will reveal itself, and you can start building off of that. And so I've been using that as my new method of capturing ideas. And so I'm big on stories, as if anybody who's read my book knows, I'm big on stories. I think that it's one of the best ways to relate to other people and to convey concepts that are fairly complex, but bring them down to a simple, manageable, and understandable form. And so I usually start with stories. I'll bring a story in, and then I'll use that story and I'll step out of it and I'll put, okay, look, this is the lesson that you just learned from that story. And then I can add my business insights or my leadership insights behind that. And it's been really effective for me. And so it's easy to not start, but you have to. Otherwise, it's never going to get written.
We have authors that have been talking about writing a book for years that come to us. They're like, I've got these ideas, I've got stuff, and look at, you took the bull by the horns and changed your whole career because of it, where someone, if it's still in their head for years and years, all these opportunities are passing them by in the meantime that they're missing out on. What's next for you, Josh? What's in the pipeline for you?
Oh, just more of the same, more speaking, bigger stages, larger audiences. Working on a new book I'm pretty excited about. I've been interviewing some pretty interesting people for this book. This is another thing that the first book offered me, being a #1 bestseller. I now can reach out to people in industries that I want to engage with. And I mean, I'm talking, the CEO of Club Med or the president of YPO. And I can reach out and say, hey, I have a #1 bestseller, but I'm working on a new book and I'd like to interview you to kind of take some of your ideas and concepts and include it. Would that be all right? And the vast majority of people said, oh, okay, hold on. This guy, he's already a bestseller. He's writing another book and I can somehow be part of it. All of a sudden, not only is my credibility very high, but now I've endeared myself to them because I've shown that I value their opinion and I'm trying to include those sorts of resources in my book. And so it's developed some really neat relationships with organizations and with people at very extremely senior roles within a lot of companies. And it's been really rewarding for me. And so that's, once again, just another way in which the book provided credibility that allowed me to really go and prove my authority in the marketplace.
And think some of those people that you're getting the door open to could become future clients because they're, getting to know you, like you, and trust you, and they're seeing what you have to offer. That I'm sure maybe even before the book is written could happen. That could be an opportunity.
And several of them have already hired me as well. So it's been a pretty wild whirlwind. And once again, relationships are complex, right? Especially business relationships. But the sooner you can weave in this personal piece of, look, here's my book, here's my knowledge. How can we work together to bring this sort of information to your team? That's where people get ingratiated to the concepts and the ideas. That's where they want to take those next steps. And that's what's really important if you're actually building a business. Anybody can just write a book. But if you're actually trying to make it an essential part of what you're trying to build, you have to make those deeper connections. And that's the book is a great way to do that, followed by some strategic conversations, of course.
And we always say, that's a way to get your publishing paid for while you're doing the book, is interview people you want to get your foot in the door. And then they've hired you and the book's already paid for itself before it's even finished. So I love that you're doing that. Great strategy.
Yeah, well, here's something I think that people don't do enough, that if you already have some connections and you're doing that and you're creating this group of people that you're getting information from and sharing information from and that you want to work with, pre-orders of the book are great ideas, right? If you have some large organizations like, hey, this is our concept, this is what we're actually, I'm writing a new book. Do you want to pre-order? And you can always, the pre-orders are great because, again, boost your numbers before you actually hit the market. But then also, you've just now proven your concept, right? So it gives you a little bit more confidence in finishing the book and in writing the book. And I think a lot of people need those deadlines and those tight constraints to force them to take those next actions that they need to.
Mm-hmm. I love that. Well, tell us, Josh, where people can go to get more information from you, to hire you, or to get you to speak on their stage.
Absolutely. So they can go to my website. It's joshuamevans.com, or the best way to really, if you want to really connect with me, I'm on LinkedIn all the time. So you can go to LinkedIn/the Joshua M. Evans, and that'll take you to me as well.
I love it. Thanks for being here, Josh. We always love having you, connecting with you and catching up with you.
Absolutely.
So if you're thinking about writing a book and are interested in becoming a best-selling author like Josh, reach out to us at Elite Online Publishing and hit the author submission button, and we'll see if you're a good fit for us. We'll talk to you soon. Everyone have a great week.
See ya.
If you want to write a book and become a best-selling author, you're in the right place. At Elite Online Publishing, we can help you create, publish, and market your book so that it becomes a #1 bestseller. We work with a limited number of authors to ensure that they receive the best possible service. So if you want to learn how to write and publish a book that will empower you to smartly grow your brand, business, and credibility, apply today. We look forward to working with you.